Dan bought a brand new Brinkley travel trailer that quickly became a health-threatening biohazard.
This is wrong on every level, and I'm really disappointed in Brinkley.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Liz. I get people the help they need when they're stuck in an RV nightmare. RV makers have responded to my advocacy with factory repairs, cash settlements, and a boatload of buybacks. None of this could have happened without you liking, subscribing, and sharing, making this channel the force that it is. Today is my first Brinkley case, but likely not my last. After Dan shares his eye-opening story, I'll have Brinkley's surprising response.
This is my first RV. I sold my house in Montana a couple years ago and still trying to figure out where I wanted to be in the U.S. The main reason I bought the RV was to serve as a bubble for some of the medical stuff I'm going through. I needed something brand new, something that hadn't been infected with any sort of toxic cleaning chemicals or water damage of any sort. I'm a combat veteran, fought on the SEAL teams in Iraq. I was medically retired due to multiple injuries I sustained to my spine. That was just the tip of the iceberg for me. I've been on a very long medical journey that few people can realize how much suffering can come when the body is sick. Being in Brinkley was, for me, to have a stable environment and a comfortable space to pursue my health. I am extremely sensitive to all sorts of chemicals, VOCs, toxins, mold. It makes me deathly ill. It's a miracle to be here. My plans were just to travel full time once I got done with my medical stuff here in Tucson. It took me a while to finally make the decision and come down to Brinkley. To me, at least, appeared that they are the best built, at least in the travel trailer segment. Per foot seemed to be much better than an Airstream. It is a 2026 Brinkley travel trailer. I ended up buying this unit off the internet, sight unseen, from somewhere in the middle of the country, and then had it shipped out here. The interesting thing about this unit that's going to be relevant is it was sitting on the lot for a year. I got a good deal at the end of the year and then hired a contractor to tow it out here and park it. Because I was buying this sight unseen, even though it was a new unit, and Brinkley's got such a great reputation. Yeah, I paid $1,500 for a guide to go through everything on it. Most of the things on there were minor, but there was a couple things that weren't so minor. And one of those was the gentleman described an issue with the black tank waste valve not operating properly. He suspected there may be some sort of construction debris blocking the valve. I asked the dealer to fix everything on the inspection report that wasn't right, make everything perfect. And they told me that was done. RV got picked up, RV got shipped out, everything was flawless until I started using the RV. I quickly found out that the black tank dump valve didn't work on this RV. They're electric, so it's really simple. Flip a switch and you could hear the little electrical servo actuating, but nothing was happening. And the dealer was supposed to fix whatever the issue was with this black tank valve, since it was noted on the inspection report and we knew it was a problem. Clearly, that did not happen. About 3 to 5 days after I started living in the RV, I started getting this horrible black tank smell. I thought for a while, maybe something isn't sealed properly down there. Maybe there's something that's off-gassing and releasing fumes. The smell was so strong that I had to keep the RV vented 24/7, which during the winter here in Tucson is perfectly fine, right? Keep the windows open, keep the fans going. I wanted to make sure I pulled out any new construction VOCs anyways. I bought charcoal bags and baking soda to put everywhere. I purchased 4 different air filters, one of which is like top of the line, $1,300 VOC, 15 pounds of carbon to pull anything and everything out of the air. And that helped quite a bit. But the smell didn't go away. Reached out to Brinkley and I was like, hey guys, there is something wrong here. My experience with the customer service so far have been great. They continue to be great. They authorized a mobile tech, finally got a guy out here. He thought the same thing I thought, like, hey, there's got to be something not connected properly down there. So he comes out and he drops the tank 4 inches and claims like he can't find anything. There's no way. You can smell what I'm smelling. This isn't just in the RV. This is if I'm standing outside next to my grill. This is my poor neighbor if the wind's blowing his way. This isn't normal septic stench. And what he finally came to the conclusion of after like top blasting this thing was that this had 100% been used already. Somebody had already been pooping in my brand new RV and it had dried and caked on the whole bottom. Once I started using it, it started rehydrating and we were just getting this extra horrible stench. but he literally couldn't find a leak at that point. At least he got the black tank valve working. The tech was in a real rush by the time we got to this point. He'd already been underneath the RV for 4 hours. The sun was going down. They sprayed from the top a bit to try to break up any crud and were able to get the tank to drain. But the tank was never cleaned out, even though the smell went from horrid down to what I would say would be a normal black tank smell. There was still a constant presence of it. And one of the unique things was if I left one of those Max Air vent fans running with the doors and windows closed, it would get horrific inside the RV. So obviously it's pulling that smell up from inside the walls, pulling it up from underneath the RV, which still left me with the impression of like there has to be some sort of a leak going on down here. There's just no way for this to be that strong of an odor. A few weeks after that tech had visited me, I was showering one night. After my shower, I went outside and I noticed there was water dripping from the access compartment. I noticed the whole bottom was sagging. This wasn't just like a little drip or a little leak. Water had been pooling in the underbelly of my RV. And I honestly freaked out because this is my worst nightmare for me with my health. I can't have water damaged insulation or wood or anything under there. It makes this RV inhabitable for me. Since then, I've left the drain valves open, so everything just goes straight to the septic here, although that's not the ideal situation for any RV. I've observed places where the chloroplast on the bottom of the RV has sagged and collapsed under the weight of that water, whatever that leak is. I noticed all at the front of the RV, underneath where I'm sitting right now at my desk, there's still water in there. I was able to beat on the bottom where it's sagging, and you can hear it sloshing around. And that water has sloshed all the way from the back to the very front of the RV, likely contaminated everything along the way. Back flushing the tank, and we've got raw sewage running out of this.
Quick pause, because what's happening to Dan is exactly what I'm trying to help you avoid. You want to take your time, do your research, and get an inspection. And especially if you're buying remotely, you want to get a re-inspection to ensure that all the repairs were performed. I put together a complete RV buyer's guide so you know which RVs to buy and which ones to stay away from. It's written using insights from my audience of over 200,000 people, plus real cases that I've personally worked on. The guide covers over 200 brands broken down by specific years and models, so you're not just picking a brand, you're picking the right version of that RV. Because as you're seeing on this channel, one bad choice can lead to a very expensive nightmare. So if you're shopping for an RV or just thinking about it, this can save you time, money, and a whole lot of stress. The RV Buyer's Guide comes in both print and digital format, and right now, for a limited time only, the digital format is on sale for 25% off.
The stench was unmistakable. You couldn't be inside the RV. For a week, I just kept everything running at max vent, more baking soda, more charcoal, more everything, immediate calls and emails to Brinkley, and no response. Up until this point, I think I sold a few trailers for them. I've talked them up to everybody. Like, nothing is more important than quality customer service and taking care of what you build and having pride in that. But suddenly I was getting ghosted with no explanation. They still have offered none. All they've said is, well, sorry, it took us so long. It's one thing if you have an issue with your RV, like something broke. It's another entirely different thing if you have water damage. Water damage needs to be addressed immediately, or mold will start to grow, period. What Brinkley should have done is send a tech out here immediately, ripped out the whole bottom, tore out anything that was damp, and at least left it at that until we could decide next steps. As it is now, I've got wastewater that's been sitting in the underside of my RV for a month. I asked Brinkley to buy this unit back as part of my email to them. In a best case scenario, if they had dealt with this immediately, I could easily see working with them and at least trying to make the unit right. At another step along the way, I could have seen them taking this unit back and giving me another one. At this point, I want my money back. This is not why you buy a brand new RV. I finally got a response from Brinkley on Monday. They completely dismissed all the demands that I had specifically laid out. I talked to upper management about this. I've called them 3 times, left callback numbers, and still no response. I asked them to replace the unit. They verbally denied that. They did say, we'll get this fixed for you. You just need to bring it into a repair facility, but didn't give me anything past that. To me, something this severe would probably mean going back to their manufacturer. I think, like most owners, not so impressed with the dealerships that they tend to choose. That's a whole separate issue here of quality of aftercare at dealerships. Even on a best case scenario, if Brinkley were to offer to come pick this trailer up today and take it back to their factory and gut everything that's been touched by water, I don't think that's going to be possible at this point for them without removing large portions of this RV. But it's impossible, given my medical condition, for me to safely be in this thing with whatever they do at this point. It's too much risk, and that's not why you buy a new trailer. And the thing that Brinkley or anybody dealing with water damage needs to realize, not just water damage, but septic damage, is it is virtually impossible to remove old traces of that. It is extremely hard to get rid of mold once it sets in. You can't just wipe it away. You can't just spray some bleach on it. It colonizes into the materials. A simple, hey, we'll pull the insulation and we'll remove this stuff. This could very well have started crawling its way up into various materials that are part of the framing. For them to be able to say with 100% certainty that they can remove any sort of toxins from this spill is impossible. I don't know where this is leaking from. All I know is it stinks and it shouldn't be there. But I have had other smaller issues with this Brinkley that I shouldn't have. These are quality assurance issues that should have been checked and fixed prior to it leaving the factory. Definitely prior to it leaving the dealership. Definitely after paying $1,500 for a very thorough inspection. This RV should have been perfect, and it wasn't. I've had to keep this RV vented nonstop since this happened. That means windows have had to be open and fans have had to be running to pull in fresh air for me to even be in this space. And even with that are the symptoms like I've already described. But over the past 3 days, summer has finally arrived here in Tucson, and I've had to start buttoning things up and running ACs. It's really affected me. The worst part about this is my health. Since this started, I've been dealing with daily migraines. It's interrupted my sleep cycle. VOCs and ammonia and chemicals like that can easily affect a nervous system like mine, and it has. It's affected my breathing, my sinuses, along with that overall brain fog and cognitive function. Humans aren't supposed to be breathing sewage. If I could do it all over again, I would be extremely selective about which dealership you purchase a unit from, because most of these dealerships, I don't know why they exist anymore. The age of the internet, they're a middleman and they just want their cut and then they disappear. And that makes this whole experience that much more difficult when there's areas where the dealer should have responsibility and the parent company shouldn't have to step in. I paid $62,000 for this trailer from Pontiac RV in Pontiac, Illinois. On top of spending all this money on a new RV, spending $1,500 on an inspection, only to find out that the dealer didn't hold up their end of the bargain and fix everything they were supposed to fix, really burns me. When you shake hands, whether it's in person or over the phone, you expect a certain level of compliance, trust, and mutual agreement to happen. I need to start finding an Airbnb and paying out of pocket. I was really hoping Brinkley would have stepped up to the plate by now with some compassion, some empathy, and some common sense and said, let's make it right for this guy. But they haven't. So I needed to go find another place to live. I can't stay in this unit any longer. At this point, I want a buyback from Brinkley. I want all my money back. Honestly, I'm going to look up a lawyer just to discuss with them if there's any legal routes here because of just the medical situation. There's no excuse to delaying a septic leak. That puts anybody, even if you're in good health, at risk. Unfortunately, I am not at good health, and this has really affected me. This is wrong on every level, and I'm really disappointed in Brinkley.
Since the interview, Dan moved out of his RV. He's in an Airbnb, and it's now been a few weeks. I reached out to the dealer and they responded right away. Basically, they said this is the first they've heard of it. They're working with Brinkley for a resolution. Brinkley also responded right away. I've been in contact with the president and he looped me in with the customer care team. The surprising thing was, even after a phone call with Dan, they still seem to be leaning towards factory repairs. So a week goes by and I sent the president another email. And I said, hey, the customer has a strong case for a buyback, and I believe my viewers will be highly sympathetic to his situation. I mean, according to the customer, this RV has been saturated with gray and black water, or combination of, for over a month. And a biohazard of this scale and duration cannot be fully mitigated in his opinion or mine. So my question to the president was, are you willing to state that if an inspection by someone on your team confirms that the RV is irreversibly compromised, as Dan has been describing, will Brinkley consider and support a full buyback? The president responded that yes, they will consider a full buyback, so that's hopeful. The RV was picked up this week, and Dan is paying for an independent mechanic to videotape and witness this inspection process. So what do you think? Is a buyback enough, or should Brinkley do more? And how could this whole thing be avoided? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I will definitely keep you updated, and I'll see you in the next video.